4:31, almost 4:32.
So,
Do we need to call
how about
out
everyone? Barbara Laird,
Barbara Laird
Tom Cogan, Rebecca Edwards,
here?
Chris Jett. Here. Brian Martinez. Here. David Deckler.
Here.
All accounted for.
I have a pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First thing on the agenda is to approve the February 6, 2024 minutes. And I get a motion to approve. So second. Right, second, public participation. Is
So
there?
you're gonna approve it.
Oh, I have to approve it?
Yeah.
We have to have a vote now.
Oh, we have to
Vote on the minutes,
vote.
so you gotta
Sorry.
approve something.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Units.
Number 2, public participation.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Don Stanford, Vice President of the Board of Legal and BOCES. Jason Chitali, our district superintendent, will be in touch with Mr. Baran. Just requested that I share with you, folks, that the agreement for providing the board and BOCES will go forward. Just as speedily. I know there's many twists and turns to this, and I'm probably the most ignorant person, certainly the most ignorant person in the room about the deliveries. I'm not going to second guess anything, but as I think many of you know, you've taken visits now to our new BOCES, which just opened last year. It is fully occupied. Our classes are growing, so our demand need for water is now at that critical point. So hopefully we can move forward. My understanding is if we can move forward now, we can probably get things online in time for the new school year, which of course would be our expectation. I think we're living on borrowed time. Anything we can do to move that forward, very much appreciated.
There's no one on this. Okay. Third item is,
That item on the agenda for tonight, talk about the
I
vote.
think it might be under
We
8
got wholesale
or
water.
Well, under wholesale water, we will be discussing
Yeah.
those.
number 3, plant status report.
Filter 6 is online. All the filters now are up and running with the new UVs. Somewhat, a few little control issues coming up every once in a while, but actually everything's been running really well. As far as average day demand, we're hanging in there around 11 million gallons a day. Turbidities have been great. One of the big things that happened last month is we had to redo the emergency plan and the vulnerability plan. So we got those done and submitted to the health department and others. Were in comment. That's about it.
Okay. Item 4.
Let me,
Oh, sorry.
also, I want to bring up, I printed the budget out. We do have a budget in now, and also, you look, it's like we're 16% of the year done, and we're 10% of budget expended. So it starts slow as always, but we're controlling the money. So,
If I could add one thing, the report that the city provides every month, which you have all received by email. You look on the back pages, they're not numbered, but for February 2024, you should see an absence of check numbers. And instead you see vendor payment and then a long multi-digit code. So we're still paying the bills, however, we've added further automation to the city's processes. So we're no longer printing paper and cutting the checks and then mailing them. We're taking better advantage of the ACH system through an automated accounts payable type of software. So just wanted to call that to your attention.
Great. All right, number 4, IMA review team.
maybe we can just identify who's on the team. And then we'll just get, because I don't think board's got it down yet.
Yes, sure. So from the town of Poughkeepsie, it's going to be Jim Challey, WJLLEY, Emily Svensson, and Rebecca.
And from the city, once again, it's, we're gonna have Bill Brady, our former commissioner of finance, and about retirement. Give us a hand. We also have James Nyko, the management consultant, with the city, and myself.
And I've just add that we have, Brian and I discussed this and talked about the fact that the first step is to have all the data that we need and a clear picture of the whole situation. The second piece is, to be interviewing and talking with a lot of people who have a long history with the plant to get whatever things we need to understand. Be talking with a lot of folks about, you know, the IMA, where the difficulties and conflicts have arisen, what's worked, what hasn't worked, going way back. And that's one reason why Jim Challey is joining our team.
Yeah, I mean, just stand on top of, you know, like Harley's introduction remarks. You know, we need to understand, there's a lot of history and a lot of information that the working group needs to understand, just to understand the operations. You know, the very first meeting that I attended here as a board member a couple of months ago, you know, a couple of board members said, gee, we nice to have a map of the operation. More detailed than what's been provided, and also more current. There's some really basic, information we need to gather from the reference library, make it available for everyone to access. And then also, I think with the interviews and armed with that information, we want to make sure that we're working on the right problems. So we want to have the right problem statements to work. That's going to take, I think that's really the biggest part of this left, right? What are we trying to solve?
So I don't know how often you want the IMA review committee to report back to this board. That's something the board can decide or tell us about. I think we probably want to have a first meeting in the next couple of months or so, if we all read the IMA, sit down and make a list of questions and people that we want to talk with and how we want to proceed.
One of the
we may
things,
do an information gathering phase. I'm happy to report back as often as the board would like us to do so.
one of the first things I'd like to discuss is how the working group will proceed. We kind of gave Barbara, the city's been thinking about this for over a year. I think, Megan, I think you were here when we first briefed the joint water board in October 22. So here we are finally with an IMA working group. We're asking for was to form a working group. You did your presentation upstairs. Yes. So, you know, I think one of the first things that the working group will want to take up is our own governance. You know, who should we report to, how often, those kinds of things. So,
Item number 5, we're going to discuss wholesale water, which includes the BOCES program.
Yeah, you want to do both these first?
So, the agreement was circulated to Dutchess County Water and Wastewater. Jerry Kamadas had taken a look at it. He said he was gonna get some comments back to me. In the interim, spoken to Chris Schall, and I've talked to Jerry Kamadas about EFC. I also spoke to Doug Goodfriend, who's bond counsel for the town. I'm still waiting for, you know, a response from EFC. One of the things that we discussed the last time was that, you know, the contract with BOCES is for municipalities. So from an EFC point of view, you know, it's good money to use the lingo that they use. So I don't see that being an issue, but I have not heard back from, you know, Chris Schall hasn't indicated that AFC has approved, you know, that, and I had said, you know, if we could get that agreement to the top, because that's the one that, you know, there's action items on. The other one is addendum 10 to the IBM agreement, which was for, again, a water district for East Fishkill. So, you know, both of those are municipal entities. I had a discussion with Chris Schall about the IBM agreement, and one of the things that she had raised. Because it's actually hard to find, because it's not immediately, um, identifiable, and it's actually in section 1 under the board. And it talks about, so in the agreement, the original agreements, it says the board warrants that 4.25 million gallons per day of capacity referenced in this agreement is available for sale to the authority, meaning Dutchess County, as of the commencement date. And then it says the water treatment plant is presently being upgraded so that it's expanded capacity to 19.3 million gallons per day of potable water. The board further warrants that an additional 1 million gallon per day of capacity is available for sale to the authority as of the commencement date. If such capacity is not taken by the authority, subject to the guaranteed purchase provisions hereof, as of the commencement date, such capacity will cease to be available. Randy, my understanding is they've never taken that they've only taken the 2 million.
They have only taken about 2 million, probably 4 times at the most.
But, so this is one of the issues that Chris had raised. And so I'll respond to her. I just wanted to take 5.25 million gallons, which, as the agreement is drafted, that's not, I believe that's the way EFC was interpreting the
Which
agreement.
assumes that your capacity, is at a higher level of capacity.
But notwithstanding any of it, the agreement says if they don't agree to a take or pay for that amount, it does not become, it's no longer available. And, this agreement is from 2004. They've never taken that amount. And under the plain term, the language of the contract, that amount is not available. But in a discussion I had with Chris Shao, she was saying that, the agreement could be read that way, but I don't read it that way. And I just wanted to confirm that historically, that's never been the case.
Does this have to do with the IBM contract or with BOCES?
This is the IBM contract.
Can we focus on BOCES for a minute? And what are the steps? What are the obstacles to getting BOCES?
The only thing that we need to get water to BOCES is the EFC approval. Everything else is done.
Everything else is done. You're waiting for EFC approval.
Correct. So,
I'll do, from my end, I'll go ahead and reach
Now-
to EFC and to Chris and see.
and I will respond to Chris, because when I had this discussion with Chris, I couldn't find this section, this agreement, this section of the agreement. I did not realize that there was, at some point, there was an ability to take over 5 million gallons per day.
So,
And I've been dealing with this agreement for probably 10 years.
so the board doesn't need to take action in order to get water to BOCES.
Well, we would have, so if the board wishes, you could agree to the contract for BOCES. I believe there's a resolution that was presented previously. With the, a condition subsequent being EFC approval. And as we discussed last time, EFC's concern is for favorable contracts for commercial users rather than municipal users. And contract for BOCES is for the school building and the Dutchess County motor pool across the street. And there are no private users anywhere, on this agreement.
I would move that if we are able to do so today, that we approve that contract subject to approval by the EFC.
Okay.
It has been discussed for many months and BOCES needs the water.
And our rate was already established for them and all that stuff, correct? So
Yeah, I mean, the
probably-
rate, yeah, the rate's in there. The only thing, like I said, the only thing that was outstanding was EFC, and I can circle back. Jared Kamatos had said he might get me comments, but to date, I don't have any, so I don't believe he has any. But we can I'll amend the resolution, after the fact, saying it's contingent on EFC approval.
There wasn't a second. Oh, did you second?
Tommy seconds.
Oh, I didn't understand this.
Yeah, I just said. I didn't hear the first part, so.
I'm so moved, so. Is that acceptable to everyone? I'm very concerned that both you get this water. It's been a long time. And if the problem is at the AFC, then let's go ahead and get our part done so that nobody's left waiting additional months with a well that's heavily overtaxed and we can go ahead and move forward.
Yeah,
I didn't
and-
see anything controversial in the contract. And then the focus can be on EFC if their approval is the missing piece.
That way they're not gonna come back next month, but once you get that, it's on its way, it's not,
Right,
we're at the
and-
picture.
And just
Exactly.
so the board is aware, I believe the BOCES is in a position to award or at least go out to bid for construction of the water main. So, and again, I don't foresee EFC not agree. I don't see them not approving it.
And there were.
Based on the facts of this particular contract.
And there were questions about whether the town of Poughkeepsie had approved everything we needed to do. Our
Oh,
board
to-
has-
Okay,
Our
which,
board has handled the storage issue and we've handled the Peach Road,
correct.
the Peach Road, so the town of Poughkeepsie is all in the clear. We've done what we need to do to get this to go forward. So I believe that today is the last thing. I don't know about the Hyde Park piece, but we're.
Well,
done with
right.
that.
So, and I had a conversation with Jim Nelson about that, and, he and I went back and forth, and so under the county law, there's a provision that authorizes the county water district to place mains under a town highway with the consent of the governing board of the town, which is the resolution that the town board of town Poughkeepsie adopted. If such a resolution was not adopted in Hyde Park, I would suggest that they copy. I don't believe town of Poughkeepsie has any they should have pride of ownership of their resolutions, but I think they'd be more than willing to share it with the town of Hyde Park.
Of course. So far as we know, Hyde Park is already resolved, but we don't know. I don't know.
So that's the only thing, and the water main is the drawings show it to be installed within the highway right of way. Not necessarily underneath the pavement, but it's within the bounds of the right of way, so. There's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no private property takings or anything else that's associated with that.
I think the only thing they had the pump station was in the town, and they had to take a little bit of, making some kind of agreement for a little bit of land, but that pump station sits within the town, then the rest stays on the.
Okay.
shore.
Yeah, there were some wrinkles, but we unwrinkled stuff.
I'm sorry, Brian, did you say you were gonna reach out to somebody maybe at EFC to?
I'll reach out to Chris Shaw and just kind of nudge from my end, see if we could. I'm surprised we haven't received any word back, because I've left this to the lawyers. And I'm just like, all right, come on, guys, it's time to get off top.
I'm happy to call them too. We can all call EFC. That's no problem.
Now, I don't believe there's an issue on the town side from their
Nope.
financing.
Nope.
It's only on EFC. So, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, for any improvements, right, I would say go to EFC separately. So, this is about the entire portfolio. So the whole issue of good money, bad money, that's a legal issue. I really don't want to discuss it here. But I would appreciate, any new documentation, be shared with all the board members.
And then, and I'll circulate I'll make the one amendment to the resolution to add that it's contingent on the MC, which is not in the original.
Sorry,
So if that's a friendly amendment, then we can then take that as an amendment to the motion to adopt the contract and
Yes.
which was second.
yeah, and if you would just share all of that with the original contract and bundle it
Okay.
all together, that'd be great.
Okay. I'll do that.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And actually to raise that issue that with respect to if I could just get I don't know, would it be a motion? Maybe just a letter from the board stating that that Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority is never invoked as of the commencement date a $4.25 million, $4.25. I want to have a document to send back to EFC because they raised the question as to, because basically what one of the questions that EFC had raised was that this agreement on its face, it authorizes up to 5.5 million gallons going to IBM, which would be, basically a quarter of the plant capacity. But that's not going to the IBM. It's only 2 million gallons per day.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where the 5 million came from.
It's in the contract. And what
Back in those days, it was calculated that was the available extra capacity.
In the last capacity study though, has you at what, 19.3?
No, these are two different things. The 19.3 is the production capacity of this facility. The 5 would be the demand that's projected for the city and town minus 9, taken away from 19.3. That gives you extra capacity.
And they're saying that they could use all of that extra, but they've never used more than 2.
Right.
Who would you like to write this letter?
You should write that letter.
Yeah,
That's the best
I
way.
thought he
That would
said.
be my
no, I would,
You
I'm just wondering for, I wanted to make a record that that amount has never been taken, because that was the question that EFC has raised based on the language. Because there really isn't anything,
And if you think about that, that's why AFC has always asked, whenever they do a portfolio refinancing, they've always asked this question. Because there's a significant amount of production capacity that could be resold as a commercial product. So it leaves a lot of room for them to change the portfolio for each of these refinances. What's the good money, bad money question?
Would it be a problem to modify the contract down to 2 so we don't run into this again?
the contract doesn't need to be modified. The problem is that, so let me read the language that it says. For the board, it says that, so first it says the board, meaning the joint water board, warrants that 4.25 million gallons per day of capacity referenced in this agreement is available for sale to Dutchess County Water and Wastewater as of the commencement date. And the commencement date is basically when the water line is constructed and put into operation. So the contract date is ahead of the commencement date. So these are projections into the future at the time this contract was written. And then it says that the plant is being upgraded to 19.3 million gallons per day. The board further warrants that an additional 1 million gallons per day of capacity is available to sale to the authority as of the commencement date, meaning after the expansion.
Right, and it's that last amount that the plant capacity, the plant did not achieve that capacity, correct?
Well, no, it's 19.3.
Correct.
But so further in the agreement, there's a commitment of 2 million gallons per day to IBM, which is separate and apart from this one section. And the reason why is the very last sentence in this paragraph that says, if such capacity is not taken by the authority, subject to the guaranteed purchase provisions hereof, meaning there's a take or pay provision. As of the commencement date, such capacity will cease to be available. So the contract said, if you want 5.25 million gallons per day, when we put the line into operation, you have to commit then to a take or pay. They never did. They only committed to 2 million gallons per day. So this,
I'd be comfortable if you would run that, whatever the language in the letter is, run it by
I'll circulate it to.
bond counsel and the rest of
Yeah.
the board. Give us a couple days to review it, so we're not holding you down.
Yeah, like I said, I've always dealt with the 2 million gallon per day take or pay provisions. I never knew this was in here.
Right.
And that's the reason why EFC, somebody at EFC is reading the agreement and they're seeing this provision. And there's actually really nothing in the contract. Even in all the amendments that we've done, you know, I think probably we could amend one of the amendments, you know, the addenda going forward to say specifically that, you know, pursuant to this provision, it was not accepted. And, you know, the take or pay capacity is only 2 million, or, you know, 2 million gallons per day. But that's, so, everybody, the board and DCWWA know this isn't a provision, but a third party on the outside looking in, not familiar with the situation, reached a different conclusion.
Anything else for wholesale water? Do we wanna put any other projects?
You need to vote on that?
Oh, about the letter? I thought we didn't
No,
vote on
letter.
it till the letter is written.
Okay, so we're gonna direct him to do the letter? That's,
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Will you write that letter?
Yes,
And you'll circulate it to the board, we'll get it to EFC, and that seems to be an explanation that they need,
yes, I believe so.
so we'll do that expeditiously.
Yes.
All
I
right.
think with the wholesale water, though, you know, watching the stuff in BOCES go on for the past year and a half. We need to be organized better with like what process is involved with getting wholesale water. And I don't know if the engineer does it, who's really the contact, like, okay, towns that need this, or we need A, B, C right down the line. So you gotta have a checklist of what's needed. Because the communication failure that's going on with both these engineers, town or city or what, has been crazy over this past year. Led to such a long thing. So I'm not sure if there's a better way we can do this, so it's easier for the people applying and easier for us to, you know, have the communication on it all.
Well, and I think there's a broader set of policy issues for the board to grapple with, which is how much water do we have? Who are we selling it to? Where do we want to sell it to? How much extra is there? And that's, first of all, an engineering question about what's, and what we can reasonably expect as far as capacity and where it's headed, right? Rather, you know, and maybe even a better policies.
And it just a checklist, so that way, like, all the engineers are, you know, they're getting this work. I mean, I was in meetings a couple times and I'm like, well, wait, I don't know if you know what's going on with this stuff, you know, it's like, it's, you know, it gets a little out of control. I feel bad for, you know, people coming in, you know, it doesn't look good for us, the way it's going. So, I mean, I think that the CPO or something like that should be that, they're that main contact for projects or whatever's gonna go on, and then, you know, they just keep it where it's progressing, not getting, you know, pushed to the side.
Great point, because I didn't even know the EFC piece till like.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, it's like step by step, you need A, B, C, D, and then, oh, hey, okay, we're all ready, we can sign off on it, we're done, we're at it.
Because we thought it was gonna be done January, our first meeting as the new town board member. And it was stuck on EFC for, now it's been 8 weeks. 3 months?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So.
So, actually, to that point, I got a call on Friday from Ian Lindar's attorney for the Village of Wappingers Falls. And he, was reaching out to me to find out what the process would be for the village to convert their backup agreement to a permanent agreement.
So they want to take water from the town on a steady basis.
Right. So, I had asked him to have, the mayor, circulate a letter to the board and to the city and to the town, expressing that interest. So,
Their rate should already be established.
the rate is established and
Everything, because they already have a connection. They're there. They have a functioning connection.
have they taken any water yet?
Yes, and no, they take when they have emergency as part of the intermunicipal meter change that we did. We put a new meter, they put a new meter in, there was a register malfunction. They got the new register to put in there, but they haven't really used much water. So we should be pretty good to go. I actually gotta get that back when I return that. So they not really. And when emergency calls, they call me, hey, they gotta take water, and they take water. So that's been, you know, fortunate, I haven't had to, and we check it periodically.
One thing that would be helpful to us newcomers is that sense of like, what's their rate, what rate are they paying versus what the wholesale rate versus other rates, right? And having a chart on what those.
I think it gets back down to this basic repository of information. A lot of the other
Andy started.
things that we needed, so.
Yeah, I sent out later yesterday, I sent out information on water allotments. And I give you this table where it talks about the original, that we got original contract from IBM of 2 million gallons a day. And then the town of Fishkill, another 50,000 gallons a day. And then town of Rwanda, 27,450 gallons a day. And they came and they went-
Amazon,
Yeah,
is that right?
so they came in and then they went out, so it was 500,000. So right now, we have Hopewell Senior Building, Senior Living Center, and then the West Campus and Beach Road Systems, those three are future. But right now, our taker demand is 2.07745 million gallons a day. And in this table here, I show you the water race that was originally developed, and then how it's increased every year by the percentage of the CPI we use. So that's how the contract goes. So originally they were, the IBM, for instance, was paying $1.54, and right now they're paying $2.59. If you look on the next sheet, this is what IBM used last year. So you can see that IBM used a total of 41,610,000 gallons, which is 1.5 million gallons a day, 1.487 million gallons a day, with a peak of 2.1 million gallons a day that they used on one day. I think they said there was 2 days last year, they were over 2 million. The restriction that's been with IBM and the manufacturer down there is that they can only get the higher water if our TOC is lower, or organic carbons in the water. And so we put in the ozone, we did get better organic removal, and that's how we're beating our disinfectant byproducts. But we're still not as good as they would like us to be. And so therefore, they can't take the 2 million gallons a day. So they've averaged last year, they took an average 1.5 million gallons a day. So they left on the table 500,000 gallons a day, which they paid for
They would take more
if our water was higher quality.
and what kind of investment would it take to?
We thought we already did that. So now what I've done is I hired a consultant to come in and tell us how to optimize our thing in our ozone, and he still waiting to give us a report. We're waiting on a report from that. But we're still working on trying to optimize any better that we can.
Yeah.
We're also been meeting with Global Foundries like quarterly.
On
And I
semi
guess
now,
now it's
right?
on semi.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, what,
They want crazy clean water, right?
right.
what procurement contract, was that on? For the lead consultant?
It was just a simple 2-day study, and it was a purchase order written.
So was it just professional services?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was just, it was only like $10,000 or something. And then I wasn't too high a number, but it was something that we needed to get to know.
And you're waiting on the report.
We're still
That'd be
waiting.
very interesting to talk about.
Yeah,
When that report comes in.
yeah, so if you look at that, it tells you all the different things that happen with IBM. Then there's another page, our other wholesale customers are Arbors and Greenbush. So this is Arbors and Greenbush. Arbors and Greenbush is quarterly, so we bill them quarterly. And they have a contract, Arbors is 32,000 gallons a day, Greenbush is 80,000 gallons a day. And the rates, again, I put the rates down here so you can see how they've changed over the years. And also in here, you can see how much they paid, because again, they also have a take or pay contract. And so you can see how much they paid. That's what that's for.
Is Village of Wappingers wholesale or retail?
It's all wholesale. But the Village of Wappingers Falls was a customer. I believe they were they're taking 375,000 gallons a day. And now when we went to Chlorine, they decided they didn't want our water because they didn't want to, what they said was Frankenstein water.
The previous mayor.
Okay,
So-
but now they've changed their minds.
Well, now we don't have chloramine anymore. So, and we have a better quality now that we have our ozone.
And they have failing wells.
And they have.
They have feeling well, they built a brand new treatment plant and then they got well problems.
They probably have a higher daily usage one with their vision, so maybe now it's probably understand.
I think they're looking at 450 was the,
Okay,
I mean, the discussion that I had was basically to just convert the backup agreement that we had a reserve capacity for from a, temporary, because the agreement that we had with the village limited any continuous taking to 30 days. So, and then we just, go to a permanent contract under the, as far as I'm, based on the conversation I just had, was, making that a permanent agreement rather than a temporary agreement. Because the way the agreement is structured now, it was originally structured so that, they could take their, water tank offline, and do, upgrades to their system and use our system as a backup.
They had big fires, they would call us,
Right.
because they just need more water, so.
So then as far as this sheet is a good summary for where the water goes. There's water that comes out of the plant and immediately goes to nearest college. And then it goes up towards Home Depot, then it goes up to Buckingham Power, the public pump station. From there, it goes into the town. But there's 9 different meters out of the system. This is a schematic that shows, Tom has a map that I couldn't print because it's probably as big as that screen. And it's a lot better, but we can all do that.
3 hours ago?
You just redid the whole map
Well,
with all the detail. I'm thinking about the 1981, all those different maps that show all the streets and.
we have a general in our GIS of all maps. So it's just there, just labeled what it's on for you guys to see. So that way, they're basically everything that's prior to our Fairview pump station is all water coming into the town. So, you take what comes through Fairview and what the water use is on all those meters. And that's what the town's total take of water is. That's not including, you're not including like your third party people like, High Park, Arbors. I should say people like, such as county water, wastewater, city of Poughkeepsie, that's all we're giving back, we're selling water to them. So it's like, that's how you figure out the water coming into the town, the water going out of town.
Yeah, I think that'd be another great point of discussion for the working group and the board to understand where all these boundaries are and
I think we went to them on our field trip.
where pipes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Those are all the ones we went to.
Where pipes cross back and forth across the town city boundaries, where meters are installed, meters that work, meters that work less well.
All the meters that we did, we had our intermunicipal grant, we had it a couple years ago, 2 years ago now. All the meters are in except for Walnut Hill.
Three of those meters are on the south side.
That's one that's gonna be on, but Veolia knows about it, they're working with city engineers, they had to make the pit a bit bigger, 'cause a lot of the pits didn't have backflow prevention in them. So we brought up to the standard, the backflow in them. Walnut Hill's the only one left to do, and then, city has left to do. We're waiting for a register change on the ones for Falk Hill and McKinley. Other than that, the city ones are changed, the town ones are changed. Dutchess County Water Wastewater is out to bid to change theirs. And there's a replace a register on theirs. All
When you say replace a register, what does that mean?
what reads the water flow? They're all electronic. Yeah, problem, so you'd be replaced, so they don't read accurately, so they change them, so. But they're with COVID and everything's delayed getting stuff, so it means like 26 weeks, the whole time, whatever. But we're getting there with Falk and McKinley pit. That one, like the other day, I heard it's getting closer. So basically, by that point, all the meters will be updated for all the intermunicipal, our end, city's end, Wapner's end, everyone's up to date. High Park's end, Dutch County Water and Wastewater, and as I say, the water line will be done this year, so everyone will be.
Are they reading in real time?
We're gonna have them on our system, which the city can have on their system too. If you put their remotes on them, so that way everybody can read them jointly.
Yeah, right now,
Have you told the board about FlexNet?
Yes, city's already on.
so I mean, right now, actually, I guess, starting a couple of years ago, when you and I walked around. A couple different field trips, wasn't on the board, but I was curious. We actually were reading meters with a little green binder and a pencil.
Yeah.
And muddy boots on the ground. Which this would lead to some great discussions again with the working group, maybe on the board. Why are we doing reconciliation once a year? I'd be able to do it quarterly, at least on the annual, so that we can, see where our.
Once like our network's up and going, with the FlexNet and, you guys will get your system, you guys put your remotes, MXUs on there too, so you guys can read them on your system. We're all reading the same stuff. It's all that, at the end of the day, you're just collecting that, every couple hours, you're collecting. So it's huge. And the billing end and stuff like that. I mean, right now, all the stuff that's on the town end, you read Randy bills, the town doesn't bill, treatment plant bills. So like, that maybe the treatment plant operators like a little easier, since it's all on FlexNet. It's all on a computerized system. I make it a little easy. I don't know.
And then from a, a use of money standpoint, we've had around 900,000 to $1 million coming back to the city. So the joint water entity's been using $1 million a year. That really belongs to the city. We do our reconciliation. Today's dollars, it's $50,000 in lost revenue. So, and yet, this is why the discussion, some of the animosity or some of the angst we hear about the city not paying on time is really a different discussion. We need to change the conversation, really understand our systems.
That's one of the things, all of the agreements for the third party water usage will have, a provision in there regarding challenges to measurements and, repaying things and things like that. So, it's something that probably deserves a look, because one of the things that I think it's like on an annual basis. So, if you've got an error that you can detect, pretty quickly, there's not really much point in letting that error continue on for a year. So you make an adjustment in the contract or, adjustment in the build amount. So that's something that we may want to look at too, going forward on the third party agreements. So that we have, adjustments that are made to, billing errors promptly.
With all the systems, they should be reactive, proactive, but you're 90 days behind by the time you go to do something.
That's a great point. It's a great point. That's why, even the contributions the city and town are making, well, they appear to be pretty out of whack.
One thing that we do every year is with reconciliation, which is probably coming up again for now for 23.
We're in the middle of it, wait, you
Okay,
get back vacation.
Okay, but what happens is there's these pits. So these pits are what Tom talks about, and these all have a meter in them. And so we got readings for these pits. Some of these pits like go right into the town and don't make it into so the town has to get that, they're responsible for those pits. Some of the pits are going to the city, so those are the city pits. So that's gotta be handled. And then there are pressure differentials in places between the city and town. And in some places, the city is elected to take town water for those customers to service an area so that they can have a higher pressure. While on others, the town is taking water from the city. So you'll see,
Makes it complex.
yeah, you'll see on this list when you do the reconciliation that both under the city water and town water, there's others. And there's probably some like 30 or more customers on it. So
That's a great point. You're not gonna find those others on that schematic.
No, there's a number, a total. What is, it's like 30 homes and they write them down and then they total it and that's the number that goes here. So you don't get the, you don't get that one number and you can't see the 30 numbers. So that's,
More than 30. There's a
Yeah.
lot of,
there's,
and we're looking at some field changes out the road that'll eliminate some of those, flipping the things over, they will put mains and connect stuff. We take them off the city water system, put them on town water system.
Mhm.
Just
It's really, it's all this complexity, which, is pretty cool, but hardly anybody understands all of it. This is why the city's been pressing for an IMA working for updating them to.
How are we doing on number 5? Have we tapped?
Nobody-
Things are done enough.
Number 6, someone please tell me what
total
TSS.
suspended storage tank. We had remember back in December, we decided we would get a proposal for design services to do the bid design for this tank. CPL did the original study for preliminary design and they came up with a budget for the project. But when we asked that in December was to get it, well, I got that estimate last Friday. And that came in at $332,050. So now What we've done is we're at the point where we can move forward with design into construction, but now we can't move forward without the money. So we're gonna have to need to go to the city and town to get the approval for that, and then to go ahead and get it.
So the city's capital planning season, will start in another week. We approve our capital plan on June first of each year. Actually, it's July first, we moved back to June first this year. So, you know, we'll need that input in our capital plan so we can have the board approval.
Yeah.
So, and then we're going to need to put it into our debt management
I
plan
think
as well.
also, we probably want to start filing for EFC loan. And then we probably need to get some approval for that. Because I would like to
You
get,
know the process.
yeah, I would like to get the money before we hire anybody. We don't do it that way, but we could be nice. Because what happens is it's hard to pay people when you got $300,000 account for them. So we have to do that. So what we can do is we
So,
will take,
Randy, who on your team is gonna be the point of contact for, providing the engineering report and all those things? Who's your project lead?
this is the engineering. I mean, yeah. So what happened is we have the engineering report, this is it, but we have the engineering report. We can send that report to EFC and ask that we put on that payment, get it as a project. And I think their projects are June 24th or something. They just had a meeting.
June 14th, I think
June
is the big
14th,
one.
yeah. So,
I forget, does the joint water entity have a separate IEP? Or is it on city and towns IEP? That's the real trick.
what happens is they give the number for the project gets to be a joint number. And then they sometimes put an A and B after it, but there's a joint number for it. They can do it that way. So what ends up happening is all the construction projects to date have been handled by the city. As far as administration and such.
That's not, well, so the financial piece, how is city each other on?
Yeah, but you
Inputs to
coordinate all the
use.
work to get the money. The town hasn't, the town's done what they had to do to put in submittals, but the majority of the work in the daily paying of the contracts for the construction project. all
Yeah, so in execution.
there
we
is-
collect money from the
There
town.
is quite a bit of administration with the capital project. And what happened is in the IMA, it identifies that the city is responsible for the daily operations and management of the daily operations. However, it says the water board can assign the city or the town to the capital projects, which leaves it open that that could be an additional cost to the city or town. Because of that administration.
And I think you guys did that.
In the past, there hasn't been any extras thrown into, other than the percentage that we've had for the city town with the payment. But every capital project's just been covered out of that. There hasn't been any extra charges.
Who makes the decision as to how much is borrowed, how much is, how financing that? That's this board, right?
You have to, so that's part of your submission to EFC, and so the city and town have been different by and large because we're a small disadvantaged community. I don't think the town has the same qualifications. So you're split between grant and loan, different from the state development.
Right. Well, but if in fact it's more advantageous for the city than for the town to apply, because we're applying on behalf of the same entity, but.
So typically what you do with a bond resolution usually authorizes spending up to the total cost of the project, not including grant money. So then, so that's a cap as to what you can spend. And then as the grant money comes in and the bond resolution will have language saying, less any amount received in grants and aid. So
I'm asking the policy question, how much are we seeking in grant funds and when, and how much are we seeking in loans?
Well,
No, low or no
So-
interest
so-
loans, and how much are we,
so it gets back to the city's profile or the town's profile.
so in
So,
this case, would be the city and town both together, right?
no, historically, the city and town have each said, okay, I own half of this project or whatever our split is. And we each go seek separate financing for the project.
Right.
And then, once it's all said,
And then both sides have to be. Because the city's
Well,
going and
only-
seeking its half,
no,
and the town is.
No, only to the extent that once your funds are awarded, however you decide, but the state revolving fund, some combination of grants or even private sector market, open market, right? However you decide to pull the money together. When the city has been administering projects, capital projects, so we send you bills. We just paid $500,000, here's how much belongs to you.
But my question is, who's making the decision about how, are we approaching ESC and other grant and funding sources as two separate entities or as one entity?
That's separate.
Typically, it's been set.
So what ends up happening, what we've done in the past, is you go out, I'll go to the city and town and saying, okay, we need $5 million. It's 45% town, 55% city. Okay, we're gonna do that. So you would go to your board and get that amount approved. And that would be approved. At the same time, we're gonna go out there and apply for grants. So we
So
don't
this
have them
case-
in hand until we got the project going. And
When you
so
say we apply for grants, it would be
this team,
your team.
yeah, the city has been handling that.
The
the
city
city
and town
engineers-
typically, if we're using the state revolving fund,
Right,
apply for grants separately. Right, because we have a different
So,
demographic.
so the steps are to,
By
to
resolution.
file a resolution from both sides,
Right.
from the city and from the town, and then seeking grants and
Then we apply to EFC
ES.
separately. We make
Has
sure,
anybody applied to other, potentially other funding sources or at ESC?
we've always gone right to ESC because the loan percentage is good.
and that's a great question because there's plenty of BIL money out there, right? So, it's,
There are other sort of funding sources.
that's right. That's right. So, matter of fact, we're attending a clean water, drinking water boot camp through, the Fed. The EFC is, leading the state, all those New York staters. There's 340 people on that call just last week. So there are some deadlines. So the next step after the bond, the application, get on the IEP. So that's the question I need to ask. I will ask that question.
What is that abbreviation, IUP? or-
Yeah, it's the,
Use- Intentional use plan?
yeah, I think that's what it is. So it's EFC's listing of capital projects. And then once you're on the IEP, they score them. Based on the scores, they get some order of priority, because of course, there's always more requirements than our resources. So,
That's the due date that I remember from the AOT meeting, the Association of Towns meeting was June 14th.
And so when they, with respect to the IUP, they usually have what's called a funding line. So they'll establish a number and any project that has a score above that number gets funded, and if it's below that number, it doesn't get funded.
folks, we have to get going here. I've got to prepare for the 6 o'clock information. Thank you very much. Great meeting with
I
everybody.
think-
They'll have a quorum if they need.
No.
Oh, I must. I just watched. it.
Yeah,
There's
okay.
one additional question, the flow study, we got the flow study, again, this proposal from TPL was $18,780. I was looking at the projections from the historical, from what to right now, and they're basically 35% lower than what we're using, 35% more water than their study.
So
I think it might be advantageous.
I thought our
to get
intent-
Proposals
I
for
thought
this.
our intent was to write an RFP to then hire someone to do the flow study.
Well, we
And
thought,
nothing against CPL, but we want to get an independent third party CPL that embedded in the organization. It's really important that we start the work of the IMA board. That we don't jump into this. Because whatever conclusions were there, I would expect to see the same conclusions. I want to see if there's different assumptions and conclusions as part of the study.
So
so,
the board already approved that.
no, we didn't, didn't have the money, I got the proposal. the
We,
amount of-
we
we approved going towards getting
we approved,
a cost estimate, and I got that on Friday.
no, we approved doing an RFP.
I didn't catch that one. So, what we've done in the past is we've gone ahead and gave it to our board engineer. And that's why we originally asked our board engineer to get the proposal. I think you're correct, we should go get RFQ or RFP.
Yes.
So what I can do is prepare that for the week, or I can prepare that and get it out, or get it sent to the board. And
Yeah,
if not,
I'd
we
like
can-
to see
then we
that.
can
Let's
probably-
see, have the opportunity to
could
review it,
approve-
everything, town would want at
Yeah.
the same time.
So I'll get that to you, and then we can approve the RFQ at the next board meeting.
Okay, assuming we can get it out. Because we're definitely gonna have comments,
Okay, yeah,
based on what I've seen in the last study.
yeah, that's, yeah.
Thanks, we gotta run, thank you.
Is it gonna be a conflict regularly or just twice a year?
Twice a year.
Wondering if we should change the meetings.
Great. I have to leave in like 10 minutes.
Okay, I think we kind of have to adjourn because we just.
No, we did.
Oh,
We got-
10 more minutes.
Yeah, as far as the next item staffing, I just want to advise the board that I have every intention to retire either next January or next May. So we're gonna need to come up with a plan. We're gonna need to come up with a plan on how you want to go forward.
you just said May 2027, right?
Yeah, May 2025.
He may.
Next May.
That's right, you may.
Yeah, so, I've had some talks with some of the people about what my thoughts are, but I think, it might be something we want to talk about. I don't know if we want to do something like that in a, maybe next meeting, we could have it in a, yeah, I suppose we could work for that one. Yeah, and then, then we have we have contracts for the engineer and for the lawyer that we got back in 17, I think. So it might be something the board wants to consider, is an RFQ for that, for board engineer and board lawyer. We did once in a while, because that's something we should talk about. But we don't have to do that one.
We can look forward to that in the next.
Yeah.
I don't know if the contract need to be discussed in executive session or?
Yeah, the union contract.
Not the union contract, the contract with the attorney and the engineer.
We have a contract that's just been going on. So we would have to terminate that contract if we went to someone different or keep it going.
And I'm just wondering how we consider that, whether that's a mini item or whether that's an executive session. Or if we are renewing the.
So
contract.
usually, I mean, it's. So. Basically, under procurement, under New York State procurement law, professional services contract are separate from competitive bidding. So if the board wishes to do an RFQ or an RFI. You can put together a package to say, the qualifications that you want, the length of term. And usually what happens is, the engineers or, professionals will come back and give you a quote rate and tell you the qualifications of the people. So it's pretty much, we want somebody to, attend meetings monthly and, advise the board and negotiate contracts. It's pretty straightforward.
So not an executive session.
So we would need to review the current contracts probably, we would want to review the current contracts and then negative figure out whether we wanted to issue an RFP or whether we wanted to continue with this contract.
Any old business number 9?
No,
Any new business number 10?
I'd like approval to go to the annual conference in Saratoga. It's sometime in April, I think it's about the second or third week, it's 3 days, it's in my budget. Good for me to see.
vote?
Only if you don't.
If I do travel, the board has to give me approval.
Okay,
Yeah.
so moved.
So moved.
So moved. Any? You second. All in favor? Aye. Yeah,
He's got Nicky.
ran too fast.
He's got Nicky with-
It's in Saratoga?
They meet up there every year. It's good to get well with other.
Yeah.
boards.
Yeah, it's amazing, yeah.
So with the way the IMA is written is I have to get their approval for extended vacations, which I do, and travel. But everybody that works for me doesn't need that. I can just give them approval.
They need your,
Well, we get you.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
okay,
All right. Good.
thanks everybody.
Jordan called me up, said, not gonna be able to make it tonight.